What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to Bring the Juice, guys. Cody here, back from vacation. Very excited too. And we got some news here, guys. I want to first, before we get to that news, apologize. I am in the process of moving right now. Just had purchased a house. And so there's a lot going on, a lot of moving pieces right now. And but I'm a little bit more available, which is good. And so I do apologize for the lack of background, the lack of studio, the lack of sound quality, all that stuff. Hopefully, I'll be getting moved here in the next couple weeks, and we'll get that stuff in order. But there's some potentially big news here for the Indianapolis Colts, certainly for the Baltimore Ravens. Quarterback Lamar Jackson has officially requested a trade. Lamar took to Twitter today, and he said this. He said, "A letter to my fans. I first want to thank you for all the love and support you consistently showed towards me. All of you are amazing. I appreciate you all so much. I want you all to know not to believe everything you read about me. Let me personally answer your questions. In regards to my future plans, as of March 2nd, I requested a trade from the Ravens organization, for which the Ravens has not been interested in meeting my value. Any and everyone that's met me or been around me know I love the game of football, and my dream is to help a team win the Super Bowl. You are all great, but I had to make a business decision that was best for my family and I. No matter how far I go or where my career takes me, I'll continue to be close to my fans of the Baltimore Flock Nation and the entire state of Maryland. You'll see me again." So, with that being said, guys, the Colts have been linked to Lamar Jackson literally for months now, right? People have consistently talked about Lamar Jackson to the Colts. I personally felt like it could never happen. I never felt like Baltimore was going to allow Lamar to leave, and I never really felt like Lamar was going to, leave Baltimore. But it looks like he has officially requested a trade now, and so, the question is, what is the compensation going to take, right? Now, the interesting thing with this trade that I think we need to talk about is, while it might probably still require a good amount of draft capital, the minimum requirement isn't necessarily two first round picks, right? It's not necessarily two first round picks anymore, because that would only happen if the Colts would sign like a match offer sheet, right? And they would have to, with that, the Ravens would have an opportunity to match that, right? And so the Colts at minimum would have to give away two first round picks, right? And people were saying that's far too steep. Now, while I think there's definitely going to be a market for Lamar Jackson, 26-year-old former MVP, I do think that it'll be interesting to see how it plays out and seeing, maybe it doesn't cost as much. Maybe teams are now more interested because it's not going to cost their next two first round picks potentially. Now, it very well might. The market might heat up and the Ravens might get that amount, but I know there's been some teams that have kind of been hesitant on that. There's been some teams that were out on Lamar Jackson. But now with him requesting a trade, does it make sense for the Colts to potentially go after him, right? Colts right now sit at pick number 4. And, really, you talk about it like, I know there are concerns with Lamar Jackson. I know there are, right? And I personally have been on the train of, draft the best quarterback available in your opinion, right? Well, it's come out that the Colts don't really feel like there's a quarterback that's like head and shoulders better than the other one, right? And so that makes me wonder, like, the Colts, rarely do former MVPs become available, right? I know there's concerns. Lamar Jackson, he has struggled with the injuries the last couple of years. But I tell you what, guys, Lamar Jackson, he is a quarterback that you take, with all these quarterbacks, you hope they become an MVP player. Lamar Jackson is that when he's healthy. That is the big if. Can he stay healthy? But if he can, guys, talk about him in a Shane Steichen system. My goodness, he's only 26 years old. I know kind of the style of quarterback that he plays. Some of those guys get injured, but maybe Shane can do kind of what he did with Jalen Hurts with Lamar. He uses his legs to his advantage, but he also teaches him to play a little bit smarter with the football and not take those big unnecessary hits. Shane Steichen has a history of working with all types of quarterbacks, and most recently Jalen Hurts, who was a scrambler, right, who can use his legs and pick up plays. And so I just think about that with Jonathan Taylor in that backfield coming off of a really disappointing season. We know he's going to be hungry, and having Lamar Jackson in there, guys, it could be a match made in heaven, right? The biggest concern, obviously, is the draft compensation, the injury, and then also you talk about as well the amount of money you're going to have to pay Lamar Jackson. That's just what it is. But it'll be interesting to see what the Colts do, guys. I mean, Shane Steichen was asked today about Lamar, like actually, like right when it happened. And Steichen had said this. He said, "We do our due diligence on every player, whether it's in free agency or the draft." So it doesn't sound like Shane Steichen ruled out Lamar Jackson, right? Not at all. So we'll see, guys, how this unfolds. But I wanted to just kind of talk about the potential of Lamar Jackson to Indianapolis. I think the steam's kind of building a little bit. Like, the hype is building. People are kind of getting on board a little bit about Lamar Jackson. There's always going to be the people that say, no, thank you. That injury and what you're going to have to pay him, that's terrifying. But, guys, there's no sure thing in the NFL when it comes to quarterback, right? And I know there's some people who say, no retreads, no retreads, no retreads. I think for me, this is a different scenario, right? Those other quarterbacks, Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers, they were pushing 40, right? Carson Wentz, yeah, that Frank Reich stood at a table. They went after him, but he was coming off a terrible season, right? Lamar Jackson's never had a terrible season. He's just been hurt. He just had struggles getting hurt, right? And so I think it could potentially make a lot of sense for the Colts to go after Lamar Jackson with some of the guys they currently have on their roster, guys getting second contracts and stuff like that. And I know there's some people that will also say, like, what about like the other guys you're going to have to re-sign and maybe not be able to? Guys, if the Colts want to re-sign them, they'll make sure they get re-signed, right? You can work the cap as much as you want. We've seen it with teams. You're like, how do they have any money? And they're out signing the top free agents, right? So if the Colts really want to keep players, they can keep players, right? They'll have that opportunity, right? And there's still a couple of guys the Colts could potentially move on from, whether it's via trade, whether it's cut to clear out some more cap space for Lamar. But guys, we'll see what this happens. This is just kind of crazy news that came out today via Lamar, and it's kind of circulating around the NFL. And the Colts are one of those teams that are rumored right now to potentially have some interest in Lamar, and we'll see if that actually happens or if Lamar goes somewhere else. And we'll see if maybe the Ravens want to trade him out of the AFC. I'm not sure. But, guys, let me know your thoughts on Lamar Jackson potentially to the Indianapolis Colts, him requesting a trade, all that stuff, what that means for the Colts moving forward. Are you pro-Lamar? Are you anti-Lamar? Are you kind of like, I don't really care? Let me know those things in the comments below. That'll do it for this one, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. And as always, go Colts.